Welcome back to the Sanctuary of the Grieving Goddess. I am she. This is a place where grieving hearts can land softly, where you don't have to pretend, you don't have to smile through the pain, you don't have to be strong for anyone. You just get to be real here. And today we're talking about something I wish someone had told me, something I had to learn the hard way. And those are the things that no one tells you about grief. Because grief is universal, but the truth of grief, the real experience of it, is something most people never talk about. But we are today. So let's first take a deep breath and allow our shoulders to drop, and also allow ourselves grace to feel and to cry. Let's start with the part that hits you first. Grief is lonely in a way that no one prepares you for. I'm not talking about just being alone in a room. I'm talking about the quiet, the silence, the hours spent in your own thoughts because your world is cracked open and everyone else's world kept going. It's like you have an exact date and time that your world fell apart, and to everyone else, those were just ordinary days. No one tells you how much time you will spend inside your head, inside your memories, inside your pain, trying to understand something that can't be understood, at least not in the ways we're traditionally taught. And no one tells you that the solitude isn't just part of the journey, it is the journey. So, what blindsided me the most was people's response to my grief. And I still don't fully understand it. Grief is something every single person will experience. Every single person will lose someone they love. And yet, when you are grieving, you will not receive the support you expect. People disappear, people get quiet, people avoid you because your pain makes them uncomfortable or forces them to face their own. I wanted support from the people closest to me, but I ended up finding it elsewhere, and that truly shocked me. And here's something even more painful, something people rarely say out loud. Your grief will inconvenience people. Your sadness will interrupt their plans. Your emotions will feel like a burden to them. Your presence will remind them of the fragility of life, and they will not know what to do with it. So instead of leaning in, they quietly back away. And that's one of the ugliest parts of grief, because not only are you broken, but you start to feel like your brokenness is too much for anyone to adequately handle. Another truth that no one tells you is how deeply grief changes you. We talked in the last episode about how you lose your old self too. That's not for a moment or a season, that's a permanent change. For me personally, my worldview shifted, my priorities shifted, my sacred values shifted, my tolerance for foolishness absolutely disappeared. But my self worth deepened and my spirituality expanded. It's okay to see life differently, to see people differently, to see yourself differently. Grief takes away what you thought mattered and it replaces it with what actually does. Nobody told me that I wasn't just grieving my children, I was also grieving me. My identity, my mind, my softness, my innocence, my old worldview, my old self, period, the woman I used to be. And that the grieving of that is its own separate journey. Before the loss, I was attached to people and places in ways I didn't even realize. And afterwards, I realized how fragile everything truly was, and I became detached in ways that felt protective, necessary, and honest. Grief grows you up in places you didn't even know you were immature. And it's a painful kind of maturity because it's so obvious to you. And even though we all go through loss at some point in time, those are the very things that make others apprehensive about reaching out to help. Because where do you even begin? Another thing people don't tell you is that most grief advice is terrible. Like, absolutely horrendous. I think it's so callous to tell someone time heals all wounds because time is what's killing their spirit the most. I think it's devastating to tell people you should try to get back to normal, because that means having to suppress how they really feel about the state of their new life when there is no normal to go back to. I think it's unkind to urge people to get out of the house, because sometimes the anxiety about how you have to show up elsewhere is so crippling. And I think it's damaging to tell someone, do something to take your mind off of it, because all thoughts keep circling back to that loss. So none of it helped me. If anything, it encouraged me to suppress my grief and push myself into a normal that no longer existed. I really felt like people just wanted me to get back to giving to them, and I just wanted someone to sit with me and my grief. So here's what I wish someone had told me. And I like to keep this in the back of my mind whenever I encounter someone who's grieving. I wish someone had been gentle enough to say, you will spend a lot of time alone. And that's not because you're unloved, but because grief requires solitude to process what your spirit cannot say out loud. I wish someone had been informed enough to tell me, your aftercare will be lacking. And it's not because people don't care, but because they are also spiraling and they don't have the emotional language to support you. I wish someone had been present enough to tell me, you will need to set new boundaries, because you are now fragile in ways that demand gentleness, and not everyone has the capacity for that. I wish someone had been wise enough to advise me to find dignified places to express my grief, spaces where I could cry without feeling like people were watching me, spaces other than my room or my bed, spaces like nature or my car or my journal or my personal favorite, the spa. I wish someone had had the foresight to say, you'll need to find people who can help you with small things like meals or errands, so that you don't have to cry over the stove or break down in the middle of the grocery store. And above all, I wish someone had the love to say, you need to feel your feelings, not avoid them, not numb them, not rush them, not pretend they don't exist. Feeling your grief is not failing, it is honoring. What helped me the most was learning to give myself grace and to extend that grace to others. It was learning to honor the solitude instead of fighting it. It was accepting that my grief journey was not just about losing my boys, it was also about losing my mind for a season, losing my identity, losing my old self, and rebuilding someone new from the pieces. It was learning, it was reading, it was soul searching, it was writing. It was letting that pain move out of my body long enough for me to breathe. It was letting my thoughts live somewhere else other than inside me. I want to take a moment and read the compassion insight from chapter 2 of the Foundations of Grief workbook. No one talks about how disorienting grief really is. The loneliness, the silence, the emotional confusion, the way your world stops while everyone else's continues. And because grief is so rarely spoken about honestly, people who haven't experienced deep loss often misunderstand how long and how heavy it truly is. Recognizing this is powerful. It allows you to stop taking others' responses personally and to start seeing that many people simply don't know how to hold space for grief because no one ever held space for theirs. When you understand the hidden parts of grief, the isolation, the identity loss, the exhaustion, the need for time, gentleness, and emotional safety, you begin to offer empathy differently. You learn to soften your expectations of others, offer yourself the validation you didn't receive, understand why so many people disappeared, see how poorly society teaches grief support, extend compassion without abandoning your boundaries, show up for others with presence instead of pressure. This insight doesn't excuse hurtful behavior. It simply helps you recognize that silence, avoidance, or distance often come from someone's lack of emotional language. not your lack of worthiness. Let this understanding soften what needs softening and strengthen what needs strengthening. Now I want to ask you a question. How will you use this insight when it's your turn to support someone who's grieving? Of course, you don't have to answer that question right now. Feel free to sit with it, to feel it, and respond from your heart in your own time. Every episode this season, we are going to sit with a compassion insight like this because grief doesn't just change how you hurt, it changes how you hold others too. This is the Foundations of Grief Season 1 workbook. It's not homework, it is a companion. As we intersect on our grief journeys, it's a soft place to land, a place to process privately and honestly. The Amazon link for the Season 1 workbook is in the bio and the description if you need that space too. Grief is not what people say it is. It's deeper, it's lonelier, it's more transformative, and it is far more sacred. You are not wrong for still grieving. You are not dramatic for still hurting. You are not weak for needing time. You are human, and you are surviving the unthinkable. In the next episode, we're going to keep this discussion going and talk about when people expect you to be okay way too soon. The external pressure to move on before your heart even knows how to beat again. Until then, please be gentle with your grief, gentle with your healing, and gentle with the version of you who is trying to rebuild in the dark. You are not alone, not here, never in the sanctuary. Welcome to the sanctuary.